What a week, right? At least we had our 3 days of winter in South Texas. And this year so far, no snow. So that's a good thing. This morning we're going to continue and consider our spiritual gifts and how we use them. And I thought I'd share a little bit about my spiritual gifts and my journey. As I began my journey towards becoming a certified lay minister, the first requirement is that you have to take a class on spiritual gifts. So you study and evaluate your gifts and what they are based on a lot of criteria. They also tell you when you're done, it doesn't really mean anything. So that's just a little side note. So as we read this morning in 1 Corinthians, we're all part of the body of Christ. And we all have specific spiritual gifts. Gifts from the Spirit. Our gifts are different and they're specific to us. None are more important than others. They're just different. We're also very different in how we use them. You and I may have the same gifts, but we may use them in completely different ways. Pastor Chacon and I may both be good teachers, but our styles may be completely different, even though we have the same spiritual gift. As Christians, we rejoice in our diversity. We want to be diverse and different. We all want to be part of the body. So I'm going to let you know what I've learned of my spiritual gifts, and hopefully it will help you. First of all, I am very, very lucky. God has given me numerous gifts, which also gives me a great responsibility to go with them. I love to learn and teach and study and share. And for the most part, I'm pretty good at it. One of the things I have most enjoyed learning in the Bible as I've studied is about the lives of the women in the Bible. I have many favorites. Rahab is my favorite in the Bible. I'll tell you more about that another time. Rebecca, Ruth, Deborah, Mary Magdalene, the list goes on and on. I do have one least favorite woman. My least favorite woman in the Bible is Martha. Why? She hits a little too close to home. You see, I'm a Martha. Yep. I'd love to tell you that I'm Mary, peacefully, smiling, sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to his every word, but I'm not. I'm Martha. I'm making the grocery list, organizing the table settings, cooking the food, cutting out the table decorations, making the name tags for the guests, doing the seating chart, and yes, so tired and overworked that I'm eventually cranky and upset and I miss the whole point of the party. Too tired to enjoy it. That's me, Martha. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a Martha. We need the Marthas in the world. There are places where Martha's gifts are needed and should be used. Let me see if I can explain it a little better. One of my gifts is that I'm a good storyteller. So let me read you a story that may illustrate better than I can in ways in which we can use our spiritual gifts in the best ways we can. It's an old story, and you've probably heard it before, but for a few minutes, let's listen with fresh ears. The story is told of a man who met God in a lovely valley one day. "How are you doing this morning?" God asked the fellow. "I'm fine, thank you," the man replied. "Is there anything I can do for you?" "Yes, there is," God said. "I have a wagon with 3 stones in it, and I need someone to pull it up the hill for me. Are you willing?" "Yes, I'd love to do something for you, God. Those stones don't look very heavy, and the wagon's in good shape. I'll be happy to do that. Where would you like me to take it?" God gave the man specific instructions, attached a map, and he was ready to go. Go through the woods, and up the road that winds up the side of the hill. Once you get to the top, just leave the wagon. Thank you for your willingness to help me today. No problem, the man said, and set off cheerfully. The wagon pulled a little bit behind him, but the burden was an easy one to carry. He began to whistle and walk and sing praises to God. What a joy to be able to help the Lord. Just around the third bend, he walked into a small village. People smiled and greeted him. Then at the last house, a man stopped and he asked, "How are you this morning? What a nice wagon you have. What are you off to do?" "Well, God gave me a job this morning. I'm delivering these stones to the top of the hill." "My goodness," the man said, "can you believe it? I was just praying this morning about how I was going to get this rock I have up to the top of the mountain." The man greeted him with great excitement. "You don't suppose you could take it up there for me on your way? It would be such an answer to prayer." The man with the wagon smiled and said, "Of course, I don't suppose God would mind. Just put it in with the other 3 stones." And he set off with the 3 stones and the big rock. The wagon was a little heavier, and he could feel kind of the jolt, but it was okay. He stopped to adjust the load, but he still sang his hymn of praise. Soon he reached another village at the side of the road. A good friend lived there, and he offered him a glass of cider. "You're going to the top of the hill?" he said. "Yes, I'm so excited. Can you imagine? God gave me something to do." "Hey," said his friend, "I need this bag of pebbles to go to the top. I have not had time to take it up there myself, but you could fit it right in there between the rocks." With that, he put his burden in the wagon. "Shouldn't be a problem," the man said. "I think I can handle it." He finished his cider, stood up. He could feel the weight now, but still it felt good to help a friend. Surely God would be proud of how energetic and helpful he'd been. One little stop followed the other, and the wagon grew fuller and fuller. The sun was hot as the man started pulling up, and his shoulders ached with pain. The songs of thanksgiving and praise that had filled his heart long since had left his lips, and resentment began to build. Surely this wasn't what he signed up for this morning. God had given him a burden heavier than he could bear. The wagon felt huge and awkward as it lumbered and swayed over the rocks in the road. Frustrated, the man was beginning to have visions of just giving up and letting the wagon roll backwards. God was playing a cruel game with him. The wagon and the load of obligations collided with the back of his legs, and he left bruises. "That's it," he fumed. "God cannot expect me to haul this all the way up the mountain." "Oh God," he wailed, "this is too hard for me. I thought you were behind this trip, but I am overcome by the heaviness of it. You'll have to get someone else to do it. I'm just not strong enough." As he prayed, God came to his side. "Sounds like you're having a problem. What's the problem?" "You gave me a job that's too hard for me," the man said. "I'm just not up to it." God walked over to the wagon and looked at it. "What is this?" And he held up a bag of pebbles. "Well, this belongs to John, my good friend. He didn't have time to bring it up himself, so I thought I'd help." "And this?" God tumbled 2 pieces of shell out of the wagon. God continued to unload the wagon, removing both the light and the heavy items. They dropped to the ground, the dust swirling up around them. The man who had hoped to help God grew silent. "If you will be content to let others take their own burdens," God said, "I will help you with your task." But I promised I would help. I can't leave these things lying here." Let others shoulder their own belongings, God said gently. I know you are trying to help, but you are weighted down with all these cares. You cannot do what I have not asked you to do. You mean I only have to take the stones you asked me to do after all? That's what I ask you to do, God said. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. I will never ask you to carry more than I will give you the strength to do. Nothing's harder to bear than a burden we're not called to carry. While God does ask us to bear one another's burdens as part of the body of God, He's not asked us to step in and do what people are not willing to do for themselves. And while there are many needs, God has not asked us to meet every one. So, as a Martha, I often find myself overburdened. But not because God has put those burdens on my back, but because I sometimes feel I'm the only one that can do all the tasks. Or I can do them better, or faster, or more efficiently. And what does that accomplish? Well, as I said earlier, it ends up making me cranky, and it literally sucks the joy out of me. It also does something unintended. It takes away the chance for others to use their spiritual gifts from God. If I'm doing everything, there's no chance for others to be able to participate. I can't let go of the reins, and if I don't let go of the reins, no one else can drive the wagon. Will somebody else do things differently than I will? Yes. Will someone make mistakes I won't have made? Yes, absolutely. But that's okay. It's how we learn, and if one of my gifts is to be a teacher, then it's exactly what I must do, teach. If your gifts are something else, then that's what you should do, use those gifts. I realized that while there are many things that need to be done, things that I am capable of doing very well and would like to do, I am not always the one to do them. Even if I have a passion for a particular project, that is not a surefire sign that I need to be in charge. God may only be calling me to pray that the right person will rise up to accomplish it. What's more, I may be stealing someone else's blessing when I assume I must do it all. So as we conclude our time together today, we come back to the question each one of us must ask ourselves. What is it that God desires? Ecclesiastes 9:10 tells us, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. But that's not all God desires. He does not only desire our works. In fact, that's secondary to what he wants. He desires intimacy. He desires an intimate and personal relationship with us. He wants us to be more like Mary, to be still, to sit at his feet and listen. Regardless of our spiritual gifts and how we choose to use them, we're all called for intimacy with God. He longs to have fellowship with us. There's no need to struggle or worry or overperform or stress about how well we're doing. He tells us this: just come as you are, child of God. Amen?